Hey everybody, got a nice crowd this morning. It's freezing cold with ice everywhere where I am, so I hope you're nice and warm wherever you are. Um, Today we're looking at the first three songs in Hamilton, the musical Hamilton. And I wanted to give a little intro before I launch into this first. The show is very, very well known, and you can go on YouTube and see a lot of really excellent videos that take the musical material apart and show you how Lin-Manuel Miranda put it together and the various different sort of compositional aspects, particularly with leitmotifs and chords and all those sort of things. So I was trying to think what I could do today that would be a little different from that and might take it from a different perspective than something you can just Google and find on YouTube. I think David's own site probably has done Hamilton several times. So I didn't want to repeat any of that information. So what we're going to do today is look at the first three songs of Hamilton in terms of the architecture and structure of the songs related to the storytelling that's going on in the show, and then how the music works to build and support that and figure out that sort of structure. And I'd like to look at sort of all three songs, more or less, kind of like a whole thing, and then take it apart as three. And so I'm not going to go into things like, okay, there's a leitmotif that's in the opening number that shows up later down the road in My Shot or something like that. I'll mention some of that, but that's not where I want to go with this. I really want to go with the way it's formed and the way Lin-Manuel Miranda writes these compositions scene by scene and what he's actually doing, because his compositional technique is very, very different from something like Wicked or Sondheim. It's not Send in the Clowns. It's not Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's not those kind of songs. They're very different. It's dramatic musical storytelling. So I want to look at it from that. So what I did was put together just a few slides, and a lot of the slides are me talking points for me, and then we'll listen to these three songs after I sort of explain some of what's going on. So I'm going to screen share. Let me get to my file first. Hang on. Okay. So you should be able to see now the first three songs that we're going to talk about today, which are Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, Sir, and My Shot. And in terms of the story and the history that's going on with Alexander Hamilton, the song Alexander Hamilton takes place over the years 1757 to 1772, and Aaron Burr, Sir, and My Shot start in 1776. It's a moment there. So Alexander Hamilton, we're going to learn the backstory. The backstory is a technical term for what happened before the story started. And then his arrival in New York in 1772. And then in Aaron Burr, Sir, and My Shot, he's going to meet Aaron Burr and then to begin to voice his own ideas. And those are kind of important things to know as we look at these things. These are musically what we would call the opening number, Alexander Hamilton, and then scene one and scene two. Musically, that's pretty obvious there. But they also work as sort of other forms. And I don't really love these terms, I am, I want, but I'm going to talk about them in those because it will help you kind of understand what's going on. The opening number sort of works as an I am song. It is establishing the state of being of the hero protagonist as we start the show. The first scene, Aaron Burr, Sir, works as an I am song for Aaron Burr and establishes him as the antagonist and a villain. And then My Shot is the first I want song. So it's his motivations and his goals that he's going to go into this whole saga with. That's basic. Again, these terms I am, and I want, people don't actually write songs for that reason, and you will find in every single song there is something, if it's an I am, that he says I want, and vice versa. So there is some gray area. This is not like cut and dry kind of things, but it is a helpful way to kind of look at it, because all these scenes are establishing scenes. This is what's called the exposition of the show. We know nothing going in. You have to pretend you know nothing, and it has to be set up and told for you. So we'll look first at the opening number, which starts with the backstory and goes into his arrival in New York. And I want to talk first about what it is functionally in the musical. An opening number, we kind of know already, needs to do three things. It needs to introduce the characters, tell us when and where this is happening, and set the tone for the show. Those are kind of standard Oscar Hammerstein goals for an opening number, and this number does that extremely well. It introduces the character of Alexander Hamilton. You also meet some of the other characters in the show, and it tells us when and where, literally with the words when it's happening and where. When we get to New York, they sing about New York, and before then in the backstory they tell us we're in the Caribbean and all those sort of things. The tone of it sets is really, really exciting. It's very anticipatory. It's like the whole tone is something big is really going to happen in this show, and the whole point of the scene is sort of to build this up, the anticipation, and you will need to follow the show to figure out now what's going to go on. So it's a very, very exciting set the tone kind of moment. There is also a dramatic function on this. Beyond being just a musical, there's a dramatic function to the opening number, and it's got to begin the story. And that's part of the architecture I want to talk about today. I want to first sort of explain something that's called the hero's journey. A lot of you may be aware of this, but this is kind of big standard storytelling technology we're going to talk about. There are points along a story. I don't know how many of you have ever read Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces or any of those kind of books. They're very popular in the 70s and 80s. The movie Star Wars is based on Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, and basically what he does is he analyzes like 1,000 folk tales or myths and comes up with the idea that each story has common denominators and it always hits certain points. And these points are what he calls the hero's journey, and these apply directly to Hamilton. So the hero's journey is you open with a hero in his ordinary situation, whatever that happens to be. Then something happens that calls the hero to adventure. That changes it and calls him out. And because of that, he goes out into the unknown world, whatever that happens to be. Then you go through a process of the hero having to overcome obstacles along his way. You'll find this is the biggest part of the show. It lasts the longest time of any story, is overcoming these obstacles. Then at some point he has what Joseph Campbell calls a revelation, but this could really be a learning. He learns a message or whatever. And I say he, I mean he, she, whatever the character is. And something is revealed to that hero that allows them to transform themselves enough to achieve their goal. And once the goal is achieved, they do what's called the return. And the return can be either like going back home, literally returning. It could be dying. It could be going to heaven. It's any of those kind of things, the return back to the show. So what we're looking at here with Hamilton is a full-fledged hero's journey. And obviously, the hero is Alexander Hamilton. Now, normally an opening number would handle just that first point, the ordinary situation. And I picked as an example Fiddler on the Roof. The very opening number of Fiddler on the Roof is tradition. So what you're seeing is this group of people, these people in the show, are saying to you, we live in this tradition. This is what our ordinary situation is. It is tradition. And that would have been the standard for musical theater for decades and decades, to do your opening number and show your hero in the ordinary situation. You think of a show like Oklahoma, it opens with, oh, what a beautiful morning. So you have the cowboy out in the fields, and that's his ordinary situation. Stephen Sondheim, though, took this a little further, and I'm just going to use two quick examples here, and you can go into these in another class in further detail. But in a show like Company, he accomplishes much more than just the ordinary situation. His opening number also there is a call to adventure. So in the opening of Company, Bobby is shown with all his friends. We get that. That's his ordinary situation. They're calling him. They come to visit him. Good times, bad times, here comes Company. But the call to adventure is that he is having a 35th birthday party, and they throw a surprise party for him. So this is what gets him to go out into the unknown and explore who he is and what he wants in a relationship. Sondheim takes this even further in Into the Woods. In Into the Woods, he accomplishes the first three parts of the hero's journey all in his opening number. So you take a character like Jack. Jack is shown milking his cow. That's his ordinary situation. The cow does not give milk, so his mother sends him out. That's the call to adventure, and he must take the cow to town to be sold, and then he goes out into the unknown. And when they go into the unknown and into the woods, they all sing Into the Woods. They're going into the unknown. So that is Sondheim dealing with that beautifully in an opening number there. And this show, Hamilton, is the same thing. So he's after trying to accomplish these three things all in the opening number to show the hero in his ordinary situation, what calls him to an adventure, and where he goes and takes off into the unknown. There's one more thing I want to talk about before we head into that, and that is these three things need to do something in storytelling called raise the central question. The central question is something that is brought up that makes you think, will that happen? So I'm going to give you an example. If you're looking at, say, the story of the three little pigs, their ordinary situation is that they have a mother who is raising them. They are called to adventure because the mother is very poor and she can't afford to keep them anymore. And so she says, you must go out on your own into the world. So they head out into the world. The central question is, will they survive? And that gets answered by the end of the show. So you must raise the central question. What's interesting in Hamilton is that the central question is raised right away. The very, very, very first line in Hamilton is, how could a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by Providence, impoverished in squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? So Lin takes care of this right away. So not only are you shown the hero in his ordinary situation, which is he is a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, impoverished in squalor. That's his ordinary situation. The central question is, how could he grow up to be a hero and a scholar? And to answer that, we have to go all the way through the show to find out, how does he do that? That's the central question that gets raised. The call to adventure is also brought up right away because Hamilton, his backstory tells us that there's been a hurricane, the family's home has been destroyed, the father has split, the mother dies, the cousin commits suicide, and then his own talent gets recognized. Money gets raised to send him to the mainland. So this call to adventure is all explained in the backstory, what happens to him. Then his arrival into New York City is him going into the unknown. New York City is his unknown. So you can see how all these points are handled by Lin right away. So how do we do that musically? How is this structured? He's going to handle three different points in the hero's journey right off the top of the show. He does this in a very, 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 very different way than most songwriters would have done up to the point of his time. Normally, you would have a song that might have a melody, the melody would have parts, and the melody would be sung and would explain this to you. That would be the case certainly in Into the Woods or in The Wizard of Oz or any of those kind of things. In this case, he does something very different. In order to tell his story, he provides two different chord progressions. One chord progression represents the foundation of the backstory, the part that happens to Hamilton before he gets to New York. And the second chord progression starts when Hamilton gets to New York. So the first one sounds like this. This is the backstory. And then once he arrives in New York, he shifts his chord progression a little bit to this. These are the foundations of his architecture to tell the story of the opening number, are these chord progressions. So instead of writing just melodies that are going to do that, he uses the harmonies to support that. And to do his storytelling, he has to repeat these harmonies many, 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 many times. The first one is repeated 10 times over. Once he gets to New York, that is repeated 3 times, and then he does the same progression in what I call half progressions. He uses parts of it, or he speeds it up. He does that 5 more times, but all based on the same chord progression in New York. Now, this kind of thing is going to get very, very repetitive, and in fact, if this were, if the pedal slipped, if this were like a musical from, say, the 1950s, what you would have would be a vamp, that kind of thing, and somebody would sing over top of it. But that's not what goes on in Hamilton. Instead, again, these are the foundations, and what he does is vary them over and over and over again. So instead of just repeating it as a vamp, they're varied, and they change as they go. So the first one is like... very simple. He just uses the bass notes. He pairs it back. Then he starts adding in. So he adds a little more flesh, and then he goes to things like... So he fleshes these things out slowly, and you'll never find 2 progressions the same. He never repeats them. He never goes back. It's constant change, constant change. And these are reflecting the story he's telling up and above that. And that story is told through rap and through singing. And this is the architecture of the song. It opens with rap. Then it goes to singing, and then he does a combination of rap and singing. Either it alternates back and forth, or they sort of sing like it is rap. And then it goes into full-fledged singing, and it ends with a little bit of rap. And for this, he does write melodies, but again, these are not songs in any kind of traditional sense, because he's working with hip-hop. So you have 3 little melody bits in this opening number. Alexander Hamilton, my name is Alexander Hamilton. That's one. Another one is the New York bit. New York, you can be a new man. In New York, you can be a new man. That is another one. And then the last one are these little just you wait lines. Just you wait. And he'll repeat those on different notes over and over again. So he uses melodic fragments on top of these harmonies that are going on underneath. And it's all about telling the story. And his goal is to tell you the hero's situation, tell you what has called him into adventure, and get him out into the unknown. And the music all reflects differently as that goes. The architecture of this opening scene, this opening number, looks like this. And it's what I call the energy arc. In other words, the way it's mapped out is definitely reflected by whether they're rapping or whether they're singing. And he builds, then shrinks back, then builds, then shrinks back, then builds, then shrinks back. But overall, it's continuing to go forward more and more and more and more dynamic all the way through until at the end, it's at its highest peak. And so that is basically the architecture of the opening scene. Again, it's got to do these three things with the hero's adventure. It's got to tell us the situation, it's got to give us the call to adventure, and it's got to put him into the unknown when he arrives in New York. It's all done over these harmonic progressions where he raps and sings. And so the construction of it is, how do you join these two things together to keep the story moving and still seem very exciting? So a lot of what we're listening to are the variations. So I'm going to play it now, and what I tried to block in over top the video of it are two things: whether or not they're rapping and singing and what little bits of melody you're hearing, and then watch underneath. I do an actual count of all the variations that are going by, and you can watch it go, and you'll see how it just goes over and over and over again, but never the same way twice. And pay attention to how he builds the excitement with what he is telling us, and you'll find that it reaches its peak when they sing, not when they rap. Have a look. Here we go.
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, by providence impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14, they placed him in charge of a trading charter.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned. A man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection
Moving
just
more.
to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name.
Now
What's
he's
your
saying,
name, man?
Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander
very little
Hamilton.
accompaniment.
And there's a million things I haven't done. But just you wait, just you wait.
And now it moves again.
Full of it, debt-ridden. 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick. And Alex got better, but his mother went quack.
Moved in with a cousin,
Picks up the pacing.
committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride. Something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf.
If there would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute, he would have been dead and destitute without a cent or restitution. Started working, clerking for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford. Scamming for
More
every book
movement.
he can get his hands on. Planning for the future, see him now as he stands on the bow of a ship, headed for a new land. In New York,
New York.
you can be a new man.
Change.
Just you wait. New York, you can just you wait. New York, you can be a new man. New York, just you wait.
Alexander Hamilton,
Alexander Hamilton,
you're waiting in the wings for you.
waiting in the wings for you.
Never back down, you never learn to take your time. Oh, Alexander Hamilton,
Alexander Hamilton,
America sings for you.
will they know what you overcame? Will they know you rewrote the game? The world will never be the same. The ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him. We fought with him. Me, I died for him.
Me, I trusted him.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the
Biggest
damn
place.
fool that shot him.
There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait.
Okay, before we go on, just to point out a couple things. I wrote in there suspended chord. Just so you know, a suspended chord is this. Alexander Hamilton. We. Dum, da, dum, dum. A suspended chord means it cannot be resolved. It's suspended over time, and the voicings of it don't have to go anywhere. So they're suspended over time. So that's a technique that is common with composers when you need to broaden something out and build it up. You use a suspended chord. If you listen to the difference between a suspended chord and the seventh chord, that has to go to here, but this, the suspended chord, doesn't. So you can hang on for a very, very long time, and that was in there. I don't know if you noticed while you were listening that some of the harmonic variations are what are called punch chords. This is common. It comes out of old vaudevillian things like tap. So you have dum, ta, 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 like that. So he uses old kind of techniques under there with hip hop. It's very, very cool. It's very, very interesting storytelling. A very different way of writing a song. So let's move on and look at the next scene, which is Aaron Burr, Sir. And this takes place outside of Fraunces Tavern, which was in what is now way downtown New York. And it's in 1776. And this is what I'm going to call an I Am song. So it's really a song that's going to express the character's state of being, Aaron Burr's state of being. And we're going to listen to it first, sorry, and then I'll talk to you.
1776, New York City.
Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
That depends. Who's asking?
Oh, well, sure. Sir, I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm at your service, sir. I have been looking for you.
I'm getting nervous.
Sir, I heard your name at Princeton. I was seeking an accelerated course of study. When I got sort of out of sorts with a buddy of yours, I may have punched him. It's a blur. Sir, he handles the financials.
You punched the bursar.
Yes, I wanted to do what you did, graduating too and join the revolution. He looked at me like I was stupid. I'm not stupid. So how'd you do it? How'd you graduate so fast?
It was my parents' dying wish before they passed.
You're an orphan. Of course, I'm an orphan. God, I wish there was a war, then we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for.
Can I buy you a drink?
That would be nice.
While we're talking, let me offer you some free advice. Talk less.
What?
Smile more.
Huh.
Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for.
You can't be serious.
You wanna get ahead.
Yes.
Fools who run their mouths off wind up dead.
Yo, what time is it? Showtime!
Like I said.
Showtime, yo!
Okay, sorry. So this is, again, an I Am song, and I was looking in the chat while I was going on. There are a lot of questions. I will get to that, and David, I will definitely allow time then, no problem. This is an I Am song, Aaron Burr, and the I Am is explaining that he, like Hamilton, is also an orphan, and then we learned that he's very, very smart. He has completed Princeton in accelerated course in 2 years, but he's a very, very cool and guarded person, and he keeps all of his opinions basically to himself. He advises Hamilton, talk less, smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. That's his rule of play. Keep it to yourself. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. Hamilton, on the other hand, in this scene, we learn a little bit more information. He's very, very hot-headed. He's gotten into a fight with the bursar at Princeton, and he's very eager to broadcast his opinions. He even says, God, I wish there was a war. Then we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for. Which, of course, Burr doesn't care for at all. So you're also getting a little bit of I want in there. I want, usually, if you see the words I wish, you know you're getting an I want. So you get a little bit more of an I want in Hamilton, but he's really setting him up for the next scene. So don't want to talk too much about that yet. What I do want to say is that this puts Burr in direct conflict with Hamilton. The fact that he does not want to voice his opinions, and Hamilton does. That's the point of conflict. So he is now in conflict in sort of philosophy around ideas and opinions with Aaron Burr, which makes Aaron Burr an obstacle to Hamilton in his progression. So if you look at the hero's journey, we are now up to the section beginning with overcoming obstacles. So Burr is now being positioned as the first obstacle to Hamilton. And Burr is recommending he do something that he doesn't want to do. So he has to figure out how to deal with that. Burr now becomes the antagonist, or some people call the villain, and he has a line that says to Hamilton, it's kind of like a warning: fools who run their mouths off wind up dead. That is not only a warning to Hamilton, it ultimately ends up being a forecasting from way down the show when he does get killed by Aaron Burr, and you have that right up front in this. So again, it's kind of an establishing scene that he is the antagonist. What we have here is, again, rapping and singing over top, which is Lin's mix that he's doing, which comes right out of hip-hop. He does not sing until, Aaron Burr does not sing until the words talk less, smile more. And then he sings, don't let them know what you're against or what you're for. So that is the first bit of singing. So that's important information. So why does Lin have that sung versus spoken? It's because it's important information. And like all the melodies in the opening number and the melody in this song, they will be used later down the road and come back like little leitmotifs. So that's a given here. That happens. This song only uses 3 chords for the entire thing. 1 chord progression. That's it. And it's repeated 16 times over and over again in this bit. There's very little variation in this. Sometimes a little bit of bass changes, sometimes others. And I saw Alice came through with a very, very good point about the variations, which I should bring up now. Lin works with a guy named Alex Lacamoire, I don't know how everyone says his name. He goes by Lac. And as a team, what Alex does is not only orchestrate, which means when the orchestra is playing, which instrument is playing what lines, he figures that out and does it. He's also copyrighted as what's called the arranger. So a lot of the variations that are going on in Hamilton are because of Alex. So Lin will give him the base core of the material, and Alex will take it and vary it even more to keep it from getting repetitious. So that partly is Alex's job. So he's not only doing orchestrations, but he is also arranging it. Like in this song, Aaron Burr, he has arranged it. So every time these are repeated, Alec is in charge of making sure that those are interesting repeats. The energy arc of this one is dead flat. It's dead flat because he is setting up the next scene that's coming. He does not want too much dramatic interest. And you also have the opening number, which is very, very exciting. And you've got a number coming up, which is very, very exciting. So in terms of dramatic pacing, you don't want to have the in-between be equally, or you deflate the energy from the other two. So this one goes like this. It's also in keeping with the musical illustration of Burr's character. If he does not give any opinions, then he's going to be cool and collected all the way through, rather than excited and popping up like Hamilton is. Very, very passionate, goes up and down, up and down. Burr is like this. So that's the way this song goes. Very, very little energy arc. And it is setting us up for the next song, which is My Shot, the big, big first song. This takes place inside the tavern. The previous scene was held right outside the tavern. They now move inside the tavern, and we get to know some new characters. Lafayette, Mulligan, Lawrence are there. They're inside the tavern, and Hamilton and Burr join them in the tavern. Lafayette, Mulligan, and Lawrence then introduce us to themselves. They're young revolutionaries, and they see Burr come in. They know who he is, and they say to him, won't you drop some knowledge to us? Come on, join this, what we're talking about, the revolution. But Burr responds by saying, you spit. In other words, you spit out your opinions. I'll sit we'll see where we stand. And this seems an unbelievable attitude to take to Hamilton, and it forces him to respond. And his response is, I'm not throwing away my shot. In other words, I want a shot at this revolutionary stuff. And so this becomes the first I Want song. And what we have here is a character who's got to express his motivations. Why is it he's doing what he's doing? Let's find out. And the way you do that are through a series of, quote, I wants. So Hamilton in this scene goes through 2 rounds of I wants. The first round, he says he wants to fan this spark into a flame. Now, the spark is this revolutionary spirit, and he wants to see a revolution in this century. That's what he wants in the first round. Burr then responds by saying, lower your voice, keep out of trouble, I'm with you, but the situation's fraught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot. Another warning. But it's also a pullback, and Hamilton, all that does is force him into even more I wants. So in the second round of wants, he says, I want to hatch a plot. I want a position in this thing near the ammunition. I want to make you proud. I want to rise up. So that's the big deal. It's a call to action. It's what he wants, is to call everybody into revolutionary mode. Where are we now? So, on the hero's journey, which Lin is plotting all the way through his show, we are still in overcoming obstacles. So, Aaron Burr, Sir, is in overcoming the obstacle, and this is a follow-up to that. It is also overcoming the obstacle. The obstacle remains in this scene, Aaron Burr, because what they're arguing over is whether or not to voice your opinion. And Burr is saying don't, and Hamilton wants to, so that becomes the tension. And so this, again, this chunk of the show, Obstacles, will take place all the way through. It usually happens in most shows until about 3/4 of the way through the entire evening, when something happens that is revealed to the main character. They transform themselves and then achieve their goal. So you've got many, many scenes to come, all of which are part of overcoming the obstacles, and that's part of what my shot is. This, again, is the same writing technique of grounding all the architecture in harmonic progressions. And this time we have this. So these are the main chords: 1, major 3, minor 4, 5, 7. And then he writes what are called passing chords in between. So you have the minor 1, a passing chord, major 3, a passing chord, minor 4, major 5, back to him. And this is a variant on the New York harmonic progression, which is this. So it's only slightly different from what you've heard. So he's now developing the harmonies, and this is his technique. You'll see in classical music, the way you're taught to write is that you state your theme and then you develop it. You do things with it that make it grow. So in Hamilton, he's doing the same thing here. He states his themes in the opening numbers, and now he's making it grow. Keep in mind that one of the main themes is harmonic progressions. These are more like themes in Hamilton than you think of melodies. Harmonic progressions become kinds of themes, the way they ground that. So that's what we have with this one. This is repeated 30 times in this song, and it never changes. In other words, whatever development happens is not changing harmonies. So if you take a song like I Got Rhythm, it will have an A section and then a B section, which is different with different harmonies, and then go back to the A again. This is not the case in Hamilton. Once he states his harmonic progression, it goes all the way through. So what happens is it has to be varied many, many times to remain interesting. So you have things like this. Those kind of things, or that kind of thing, or even simpler. Varies, but it changes all the way through. Constant variation. And again, some of this could be with his arranger. One of the variations that's really neat in this song is not to have music at all. So the variation is actually a blank, and all you have are percussive sounds behind it. The other one is that you have what I call dropouts. So you're playing along with the music, and then it just goes silent. You don't hear anything. And what happens is it affects your ear, causing you to listen even more. Blanks make you pay attention more than fill, because all of a sudden something's missing. It also has what's called missing downbeats. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, he doesn't play on the 1, he goes 1. He skips it. Again, these are techniques he's using to hold your attention and keep it fresh every single time. Again, he starts with a rap, 20 bars long, and there's no accompaniment to it at all. It's called beatboxing, when you go right into the mouth, into the mic with your mouth, and table drumming. They're doing this inside the tavern. Once the harmonic progression begins, he raps over it for a very, very, very long time. I think about 20 different variations goes through. Then he begins to sing, and then he raps some more, and then he sings all the way to the end. The melodic bits on this, again, just like the opening, 3 bits. Not throwing away my shot, which is a rhythm based on the opening. Dump, da-da-da-dum, the little military drum opening. He also has rise up. That's another theme. And then, whoa, 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 that's the third one. So there are 3 melodic bits that you hear in this. What's interesting is how he piles them up. So again, when you're constructing your scene, you want it to go somewhere. You want to give it direction so it lands somewhere at the end. And what he does is pile up melodic bits on top of each other until you have choral voicings. In other words, big, full, rich. He goes into 4, 5, 6-part choral writing to escalate the sound and seem like there's more and more mass coming from the stage. This is part of Everybody Join the Revolution. He's building melodies on top of melodies in a choral texture. It's really beautifully done. Here's the energy arc. This is the actual architecture of this scene. And you can see again, he's driving to the end, and just like the opening number, the very, very end of it is the peak of the song. So he starts off very low with the rap, and you'll find these little peaks, little going up, little coming back, little going up, going back, and then it goes even more. And the biggest arcs happen when he sings. When everybody's singing, you're going to go up to the highest point, and when they're rapping, they tend to stay down low, because rapping you do more one at a time. You don't have so much volume going on. So that is the overall thing. It's almost a parallel to the opening, but now he's doing it as my shot. So quick before we listen to it, it is an I Want song expressing Hamilton's wishes, which what he wants is to voice his ideas and his opinions and to be a part of this revolution, and he wants everybody to join in. That's his want. We are at the obstacle stage of the journey. We're at the beginning of the journey. He's going through obstacles. It's one of the first obstacles. The obstacle is Burr. So you hear Burr in this scene constantly pulling him back in another direction. And over the course of the first act, he has to figure out how to get around Burr. And you're seeing this overall arc, like the beginning, that starts one way and then goes all the way up. Big, 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 big at the end. I've labeled some things in here that you can see. I couldn't label everything, but you'll be able to follow along, and I'll see if I can talk over some others too. Here we go. Let's listen.
I'm John Lawrence in the place to be. 2 pints of Sam Adams, but I'm working on 3. Those red coats don't want it with me, cause I will pop, chicka plop these cops till I'm free.
Eh oui, oui, mon ami, je m'appelle Lafayette, the Lancelot of the revolutionary set. I came from afar just to say bonsoir to the king, cause it's who is the best, c'est moi.
Brah, brah, I am Hercules Mulligan, up in it, loving it. Yes, I heard your mother said, come again. Lock up your daughters and horses. Of course, it's hard to have intercourse over 4 sets of corsets. Wow. No more sex, pour me another brew, son. Let's raise a couple more to the revolution. Well, if it ain't the prodigy of Princeton College, Aaron Burr, give us a verse, drop some knowledge. Good luck with that, you're taking a stand. You spit, I'ma sit, we'll see where we land. For the revolution revolution's imminent. What are you stalled for?
If you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for?
Who are you? Who are you?
Who are you? Who is this kid? What's he gonna do?
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough, a shining piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get colder. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't never gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. Enter me.
He says in parentheses.
Don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually, you'll see my ascendancy. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. It's time to take a shot.
I dream of life without a monarchy. The unrest in France will lead to anarchy. Anarchy, how you say? Or anarchy. When I fight, I make the other side panicky with my shot.
Yo, I'm a tailor's apprentice, and I got y'all knuckleheads a local parentis. I'm joining the rebellion, cause I know it's my chance to socially advance. Instead of sewing some pants, I'm gon' take a shot.
But we'll never be truly free until those in bondage have the same rights as you and me. You and I do or die. Wait till I sally in on a stallion with the first black battalion. Have another shot. Geniuses, lower your voices. You keep out of trouble and you double your choices. I'm with you, but the situation is fraught. You've got to be carefully taught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot.
Bird, check what we got. Mr. Lafayette, hard rock like Lancelot. I think your pants look hot. Lawrence, I like you a lot. Let's hatch a plot blacker than the kettle calling the pot. What are the odds of God to put us all in one spot? Pop in a squad and conventional wisdom, like it or not. A bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is. Oh, am I talking too loud? Sometimes I get overexcited, shoot off at the mouth. I never had a group of friends before. I promise that I'll make y'all proud.
Let's get this guy in front of a crowd.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Everybody sing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, whoa.
Brother that he's gotta rise up. Tell your sister that she's gotta rise up.
When are these colonies gonna rise up? 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 Rise up!
I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory. When's it gonna get me? In my sleep, 7 feet ahead of me. If I see it coming, do I run or do I let it be? Is it like a beat without a melody? See, I never thought I'd live past 20. Where I come from, some get half as many. Ask anybody why we living fast and we laugh, reach for a flask. We have to make this moment last. That's plenty, scratch that. This is not a moment, it's the movement. Where all the hungriest brothers with something to prove went. Foes oppose us, we take an honest stand. We roll like Moses, claiming our promised land. And if we win our independence, is that a guarantee of freedom for our descendants? Or will the blood we shed begin an endless cycle of vengeance and death with no defendants? I know the action in the street is exciting, but Jesus, between all the bleeding and fighting I've been reading and writing, we need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation nation estates. What's the state of our nation? I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every action's an act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties of sorrow. For the first time I'm thinking past tomorrow. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country, I'm young, scrappy and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. We gonna rise up, time to take a shot. We gonna rise up, time to take a shot. We gonna rise up, rise up. It's time to take a shot. Rise up, rise up. It's time to take a shot. Rise up. It's time to take a shot. Rise up. Take a shot, shot, shot. Hey yo, it's time to take a shot. Time to take a shot. And I am not throwing away my shot.
Yep. Okay, so there you have it. I'm going to shut this down now because I don't have any more slides. So one thing I wanted to point out before, and I saw a couple good questions go by of things I didn't explain very clearly, is that one of the reasons he's doing chord progressions the way he is that it allows him, in terms of rap, to get a lot of words and information over to the audience. If you had to sing the equivalent, it would be very, very difficult to do. And so by lining up these chords and being able to rap over top, he can just shoot out tons of material to you. So that is one reason for them.
So I'm going to show you a couple of my videos. The
Okay.
first one compares The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars. And it's not that different for people to say, oh, those two are both the hero's journey. Mine does something a little bit.
Ooh, okay.
Do this.
Shalom, it's David Benkoff, the Broadway Maven. You'll be shocked at how much The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars A New Hope have in common. In fact, by the end of this video, you'll know dozens of ways Star Wars, consciously or unconsciously, ripped off The Wizard of Oz. It's well known that The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars are both versions of the hero myth and quest literature, but the parallels go much further. Let's start by talking about the characters.
Dorothy and Luke are both young dreamers who live on family farms with their aunt and uncle. They each want to leave and have an adventure in the sky. Before the quest, our heroes reach out to the enigmatic outsiders, Professor Marvel and Obi-Wan Kenobi, for guidance. Each movie has a sidekick who cannot speak, and their names, Toto, Tutu, and R2-D2, are similar. The Tin Woodsman and C-3PO are both men made out of metal, with fussy personalities, who receive oil in their joints. Both the Cowardly Lion and Chewbacca are large, hairy beasts, who nonetheless walk upright. Each show's villain, the Wicked Witch and Darth Vader, dresses head to toe in black. Each has a scary voice, magical powers, and an army of henchmen.
But beyond the characters, there are at least 5 important plot points in the two movies that seem too similar to be coincidental.
Early in both films, little people play an important role, whether the Munchkins or the Jawas. Hologram-like apparitions play key roles in the plot, including one of the wizard and one of Princess Leia. The deaths of the Wicked Witch and Obi-Wan Kenobi are similar, as they disappear, leaving only their robes. At one point in each film, the heroes disguise themselves as guards and stormtroopers to sneak into the villain's lair. Finally, there's an award ceremony of sorts at the end of each film.
Now, George Lucas has denied basing his film on The Wizard of Oz, but there are so many specific parallels between the two films that seems surprising. Now, perhaps Lucas, like most people of his generation, grew up watching The Wizard of Oz on television every year, and he was maybe unaware that he was observing so much of what makes that film great.
Here's another video I think you'll like. Okay, so isn't it fun?
Totally, and I actually totally agree with you. And I had read, this was back long ago, like probably in the 80s or 90s, that George Lucas actually took Hero with a Thousand Faces and used Wizard of Oz as the example of how that is structured. In other words, to understand the hero's journey was through Wizard of Oz. And I can't tell you the number of play meetings I have been in for productions where the Wizard of Oz is used as the parallel to help the play you're working on get defined, because everybody knows it more than they know a lot of the myths in a hero's journey, and it's used structurally that way. I would be kind of curious, I don't know if you know this, what they used to structure the Wizard of Oz. Was that just off the top of their head, or were they aware of sort of mythology and tried to parallel it? I don't know.
Right. I mean, I think Campbell's point is that mythology among Latin American tribes and Norsemen, they all have the same structure. Fundamental about, our insides that make us think, our imagination are all the same.
That's right. That's right.
This one is even more fun.
How does a bastard,
orphan,
son of a whore,
and the Scotsman
in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean, by Providence,
impoverished,
in squalor, grew up to be a hero and
a scholar,
the $10
founding father, without a father,
got a lot farther
by working a lot harder,
by being a lot smarter,
by being a self-starter.
by 14,
They placed him in charge of the trading charter every day, while slaves were
being slaughtered,
carted away across the waves. He struggled
and kept his guard
up inside. He was longing for something to be a part of it.
The brother was
Ready to beg, borrow,
for bartering. Then
the hurricane came, devastation rained. Our man
saw his future tripping
down the drain,
put a pencil
to his temple, connected
but to his
brain,
and he wrote his first
refrain.
the Testament. It's his pain. Well, the word got around. They said this kid is insane, man.
Took up a collection.
Just obtain him to the mainland. Get your education. Don't forget from whence you came. And the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, huh? Alexander Hamilton.
My name is Alexander Hamilton.
And there's things I haven't done. But just you wait.
Just you wait.
When he was 10, his father split.
Full of it. Debt-ridden.
2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden.
Half dead.
Sitting in their own sick, thick, and Alex got better. But his mother went quick, moved in with a cousin. The cousin committed suicide. Left him with nothing but ruined pride, something new. Inside. The voice. Said Alex, you got it.
Then for yourself. He started
Treating
and reading.
every treatise.
On a shelf.
There would have been nothing left to do for someone. Less they would have been
Dead or destitute.
without a cent of restitution. He started working clerking for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford scanning. But every
Book he could get his hands on.
planning for the future.
See him now.
As he stands off. The bow was a ship headed for
New land.
In New York, you can be a new man. In New York, you can be a new man. In New York, you can be a new man. In New York, you can be a
New man.
In New York, New York.
Just you wait.
Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
We are waiting
In the wings.
for you.
Waiting in the wings for you.
You could never
Back down.
You never learn. Just take your time. Oh.
Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton. When America sings for you, they know what you overcame. Well, they know. You will your game.
The world will
Never be the same.
now see if you
Can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies.
Destroyed.
His rep America. Forgotten. We fought with him. Me. I died for him.
me.
I trusted him.
Me.
I loved him. And me. I'm the damn fool. I shot him. There's a million things I haven't done, but
Just you wait.
what's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. Please like and subscribe.
Whoa, whoa. I'm very impressed how you found all those and edited them in. Unbelievable, David.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Shalom, I'm David Benkoff, the Broadway Maven. The Broadway Maven is a vibrant educational community. Every month, members may attend 5 to 15 classes and other expert-led Broadway experiences, all for just $18. There's a membership link in the description. And here's a Hamilton playlist.